Hello, everyone, and welcome to Belize Tourism Futures. Today, I'm joined by Leif Sverre of Island Expeditions. Welcome, Leif.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So let's just jump right into it. I was wondering if you could take me back to the beginning of Island Expedition, and you can tell me like why exactly you decided to to focus on small group expeditions to remote atolls in Belize.
Yes, well, our company started back in 1987, and there was a very small sort of industry of sea kayaking companies that had started in British Columbia on the west coast of Canada. And really, it was with this kind of model that we thought would work really well in Belize. So when we arrived down there and paddled first times from island to island, we thought, wow, this would be ideal.
And did it feel risky? Like, for example, like you would look around and it was like a tourism model that wasn't present in Belize at the time, I believe, or it wasn't popular.
Yeah, of course. It did feel risky at the time, but part of it was just the experience. Landing in Dangriga, meeting some of the local fishermen, and heading out to some of the islands with kayaks that we brought down on the roof of vehicles. And it was really, quite natural because a lot of the local Belizeans that we met along the way, they were used to paddling dories and out there fishing conch and lobster, and paddling kayaks was sort of a natural progression. So it felt like this place would be perfect for it. And the islands, there's so many islands along the barrier reef to go from island to island, and that was sort of the ideal nature of the destination that we sort of thought, wow, this would be something that people would really appreciate and groove on.
I got the chance to go to Glover's Reef with your company. I think this is back in 2019,
Hmm.
and till this day, it's one of my favorite memories of Belize. It's like very unique, and unfortunately, a lot of Belizeans don't get to do that expedition, right? Like just being like in a like I would say like middle of nowhere, right next to the barrier reef, and you can hear the waves crashing against the reef, and it's so loud that you need to get used to it. You need
Very true.
a moment to assimilate to it, to the being there, and just being so remote and deserted. I say this because I wonder, like, if when you were initially going out, like you wanted to kayak to these remote islands, did you get any like pushback from the locals? Like, did they think that you were like a bit crazy to be wanting to be exploring so far off the coast of Belize?
I don't think so. I mean, mainly, when we started the business, it was mostly along the barrier reef zone outside of Dangriga. And um, all the keys out there, it was sort of a natural area to explore. But then we met the family that owns the key or the island out at Glover's Reef, the Usher family that still resides and lives in Dangriga and is still part of our operation today. They invited us to come out and see this gorgeous key that they had out there, and we were just blown away. And of course, it was all about the snorkeling, and the kayaks were really just a vessel to go out and get into the water and explore the shallows and get into areas that are really difficult to get to with motorboats and other means. So it was sort of just a natural fit.
To add a little bit more context to my experience, I remember telling Belizeans that I was gonna go like, you know, 3 hours on a speedboat off the coast of Dangriga to like Glover's Reef, and they
Yeah.
were like, "Why are you doing that? Like, why don't you prefer going to like a nice resort and like hanging out there if you really want to have like a nice Belizean vacation?" They just thought it was a bit, it's a bit wild and out of character for like what Belizeans would enjoy as a vacation.
Yeah, I mean it is. It's different. It's like it's a different way of looking at the world. A different, like, you want to get out into areas that are remote. And really, for us, it's about access to the specific areas. And so we operate two camps, one in Glover's and one at Lighthouse. And, it's not fancy accommodation, it's not fancy stuff, but it's the access. So you're putting yourself close to the best snorkeling. And Belize has some of the best snorkeling in the world. It's incredible. I keep hearing it from people time and time again that have been all over the world, and they keep saying that Belize has some of the nicest waters and the richest coral reefs.
Yeah, and here's something about being able to like be somewhere that's very remote and being able to unplug. And I don't know what exactly happens, but like your brain just switches, and all of a sudden you feel so relaxed, and then you're like more in tune with nature. Anyway, like that's just to say that like I do think that the expeditions that you do are really special, and
Mhm.
I know that a lot of travelers appreciate it because you do have a bunch of repeat travelers, right?
Oh yeah, we definitely have repeat guests that come back. I mean, year after year, but we've just focused on selling trips to Belize, so we don't really offer trips in other destinations. So there's many guests that decide, okay, Belize, check, done that, been there, loved it, but we won't go back. But we also have been in business now for long enough where people are saying, oh, wow, I visited with you 15 years ago and I still remember your holiday and I would sure love to come back. It was such a great experience. And yeah, we do definitely love past guests and people that kind of connect with our type of travel. And it's really kind of, yeah, small groups and there's a real family feel to it. So you kind of are welcomed into the camp and you're taken along and, we're bringing you like you're part of the family kind of thing and eating meals together. And yeah, it's a great experience. And of course, the Belizean people are so wonderful. The guides and cooks and all the camp staff, they're so lovely with the guests. And the main thing with Belize too is that there's no language barrier. It's so different than traveling into other parts of the world where people can actually get to know one another and really understand you know how they grew up, and they can ask more questions, and that's a real special part of Belize.
And who are your ideal travelers? Like, explain your target market.
Yeah, well, mainly because of the type of accommodations that we have, we typically get people that are outdoor enthusiasts. So people that in Canada they would be go shopping at the Mountain Equipment Co-op, or in the US it would be REI. People that enjoy hiking on the weekends and probably have lots of outdoor gear. They typically are the guests that really enjoy our type of travel because we don't offer the fanciest accommodations, but what we do offer is access to some of the best locations. When you're staying with us, you're going to get really close to the reef. You're going to be able to snorkel just offshore, if not right off the beach. In some ways, you're paying for access, but also to be, guided and to be led into these areas that doing activities that you're maybe not super comfortable doing on your own.
And what makes a truly special group experience?
It's a good question. I feel like there's a real family vibe that sort of gels with groups. And so, the guides that we have in Belize, when they communicate and they, share their knowledge, and then they take them out into the field, they get in the water with them, and they are explaining what the different fish and what the different corals, the hard corals, the soft corals, and, all the different things they're seeing. And then they'll come in and they'll eat meals with them, and they share stories about the day, and then they'll you know guests will ask the guides about their experience and their lives in Belize. I feel like a great experience is that when people have that connection to the people and with the destination, and of course when Mother Nature cooperates, when the weather is nice, doesn't hurt either.
And if you would look back to when you just started out, would you be able to share like some of your early mistakes that happened, like what works, what doesn't work for your trips?
Yeah, I mean, there's always things that you can look back on and improve. I mean, probably on any given day. I think early on in our company and things is that we were doing our best to shop for supplies and gathering foods and things for each trip while we were out at or in Dangriga. We would shop for each and every trip, and so it would be more. We would send out supplies, and then we would get those things come out, but then sometimes things wouldn't show up, or people got short, or whatever it is. So I feel like some of the earlier mistakes that we made were really around systems, and we evolved and changed so that yeah, it could just be more consistent, and we can make sure that there's more than enough supplies on any given trip, so that the staff, the guides, the cooks, the camp managers, and everybody that's part of the experience can just do their job easier and not be stressed about being short on certain things.
So regarding yeah, like making sure that you have all your systems in place and logistics, etc. Like how did you come about solving that issue? Did you hire someone specifically for that, or did you just train the entire staff?
No, I think we just kind of realized or came to the realization that we needed to spend some time on it, and I think there was just a certain point in the business that I think we recognized that we needed to really focus on that, just so that we could deliver the experience and the product, or the service is more accurate, but um, in a more consistent and so that we can, yeah, spend our time focusing on the guests, because in the end it's really about their experience. It doesn't, all the stuff that happens in the background to deliver that service it should be 100% focused on making sure that the guest's experience is elevated and getting better and improving, and whether that's just the quality of meals, the quality of the goods, of the supplies that are arriving, or just the consistency and making sure that everything is stocked up and ready to go.
Is there something specific that you have refined the most over time to improve the overall guest experience?
Yeah, I mean, I would think that the meals and is something that we've focused on a lot. We try and have every year or every other year we have people come out and help. We do pretty significant training with our cooks and chefs that we have, and for the last few years we've just really made sure that that we can deliver excellent meals, as well as accommodate for all these strange and wonderful dietary restrictions that we see on people's forms, because again, it's all just about delivering that personalized experience, so that when people arrive, that we can accommodate them, and it's not a stress point, and people get delighted, kind of thing, because meals are a big part, and the food is a big part of people's experience. And Belize has such wonderful food and awesome products and things that people are really happy with, and it's just about making sure that it's adapted a little bit to maybe some of the North American style of eating. I know in Belize everybody likes to have their dinner in the middle of the day, but in the people like to have a big meal at the end of the day. So we have to sort of adapt and adjust things a little bit, and that's one thing that we've made sure to elevate and keep improving year after year after year.
So in terms of training your guides, Can you walk me through what the process is and the things that you do to make sure that they're up to standards?
So at the start of the season, so it's usually in late October, early November, we typically have a guide and staff training session. So we usually, for example, go out to Glover's Reef with our entire team. And we do everything from meal preps and different experiences, and have all the staff critique and let the cooks know what they're talking about. The guides will get full kayak instructions, snorkeling instruction, how to safely do snorkel trips. We do first aid training, and as well we do natural history. We like each of our guides to kind of come up with at least one specialized talk that they can discuss with our guests, so that they can kind of become the resident specialist on a subject. And so it's all about trying to find what that is for each individual person. And it needs to be tied to their personality and their person. And so, on a given trip, that there's many different people, or if there's many different guides, they each have their own specialty or their own thing they like to discuss. And we do also try and bring some elements of training, but certifications. Occasionally, we'll bring in people that will, give people certifications, whether it's kayaking or paddleboarding or learning new techniques for snorkeling, that kind of thing.
You've probably hired a lot of new guides, and I was wondering if you could share, like, what is like the biggest difference you see from a newbie guide to someone that is experienced? What is the main factor that you can differentiate them by?
So I find that a lot of it is their confidence and just being able to deal with guests. And some of them, younger guides will be just so focused on getting everything right that they may not notice the nuances. If somebody is, kind of exhibiting ways of that show that they're not happy, or maybe they're struggling to kayak, or they're not paddling as strong, and new guides just have to, they have to kind of find the confidence to eventually be looking outward and paying attention to the guests. That's the main thing with us, and that I've noticed over the years. It takes a year or two for a lot of the guides per se to find that confidence. And there is, as much as Belize has, is an English speaking country, there is still a little bit of a language barrier. And so people do tend to it just takes a little time for maybe the understanding and the communication between them to get down perfect. Because I know that our guess they don't understand Creole, but sometimes it's the opposite too, is that new guides they're not as used to listening to the English as much, and understanding exactly what's being asked.
Final question. What do most tourism operators in Belize misunderstand about building a great tour?
Yeah, I think it's really about paying attention to what your guests want and what your guests need. And I feel like there's a lot of attention paid to bringing people out to the destination and showing your guests the locations and the fish and the coral and getting into the water, but really asking the guests what they want to do and what they what will make the day special for them. I feel like that's a real important aspect of the dialogue that needs to happen between a guest and a guides and the different tour operators and so forth. So,
Actually, I have one more question.
sure.
Do you mind sharing a few of the positive feedback and reviews that your guests typically share?
They are surprised at how much they learn about the reef, how much they learn about the different fish and the fish feeding behavior, reef zonation, learning about this beautiful part of the world and the different aspects that are kind of unique to the destination. And then if you go, of course, if you go inland into the jungle and the, all the different, the bird life and the different animals and all of that sort of things, they really enjoy learning about all the different cultures in Belize, all the different animals in Belize, all the unique aspects of, the just that part being that part of Central America, I think is really where, and the more that you can teach that to your guests and express that to them, they come back more fulfilled. Because I feel like a lot of our guests, they've already done the all-inclusive Mexican vacation in Mexico, and they're coming for something deeper. They're looking for something a little bit more meaningful, and Belize is a perfect destination for that, I feel.
My guest today is Leif Sverre. Leif, thank you for being on Belize Tourism Futures.
Thank you very much, Lorenzo. It was a pleasure. Thank you very much for talking to me as well.